What is up? Welcome to the Next Guy Up podcast. We are here and football is here. It is also here. Football college week 1 is coming up this weekend, and today we are previewing the biggest games of the weekend, and there's actually a lot of them. Week 1 this year is delivered. Week 0, according to Mason, trash. But week 1 is coming, and so we're really excited. We're going to cover some of the biggest games of the weekend coming up. Mason is taking us back to Fantasyland. He is going to break down. He is going to break down some fantasy talk. I know everyone is in the midst of finishing up their fantasy drafts, probably, and so get some last minute advice. Maybe see where some players are at. So it's going to be a fun episode today. Big episode. We are super excited. We've been waiting all off season for this, and it's finally here. So, boys, how are we feeling about football?
I'm so glad it's back. I'm so glad football is here. It's going to be on all weekend. I don't have a ton going on this weekend, so it's just football wall to wall.
Except for the NFL part, which will be the week after. But I did want to throw out, NFL for the fantasy land. I'm most excited about this part, which is you usually pick like a couple players. Mm-hmm. We have a lot, and Tinsley talked about this before we got on. We have a lot of players going to the PUP list, which we'll talk about. They will not be playing for their first 4 games. And we also have some players that got cut, not huge names, but maybe some things that you'll need to keep an eye out for. So big for the fantasy land segment. I did want to ask you guys, college football wise, Labor Day weekend on Monday. How pumped are we? And is this game tarnished because of the upset? Would you be more excited to see Florida State? Because I was like, wait, what game is I'm going to be laying out, enjoying, maybe do some cookout, enjoying like a Labor Day, and then you see the game and it's already upset Florida State on the schedule.
Listen, Mason, college football is built on the back of upsets. That's what makes college football great. No upsets in the NFL. I mean, there are technically, but no one's
Wait a minute.
The worst team in the NFL can beat the best team, and it's like, oh, that's a weird week. Like, it's like whatever. I mean, it's surprising, but it's not shocking. But a big upset happens in college football, and it kind of shakes the whole foundations of the system here. So you never know what's happening. You never know what teams are going to be better. It's a long off season, lots of overturning rosters. So it makes college football fun. Upsets only make me more excited to watch more college football because that's what you live for. You live for the big upset.
Listen, I'm here for the upsets and the fake week 0, not real college football week. But I was just saying the 0-1 Florida State versus Boston College is not as exciting to see. That's what I was trying to. I'm all here for upsets. I was just saying, should we got somebody that hasn't already lost a game?
I'll be honest with you, that game is not on my radar at all. So
wasn't even before the upset.
No, not
on a Labor Day. Oh, okay.
Is that a night? When is that?
Yeah, that's that night.
Yeah,
that's a weird schedule for Florida State to start with. Whoever made their schedule did a terrible job.
Terrible.
You go to Ireland and you come back and you play on Monday night the next week
against a Boston College team that's
weird
solid.
Way to start your week. Yeah, to start your season. I would.
It's in Florida State. We do 6:30 on ESPN.
Okay. Gotcha. We do have a Sunday night game, and it's a good one. So that's pretty exciting, actually. Knowing that a lot of people don't have to work on Monday morning. You get to watch that game on Sunday night. I'm pretty excited about that one, LSU USC. So I think that's a pretty cool little switch up to put a big game on Sunday night that first weekend before you have football and before you have NFL crowding out the Sunday slate. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. Get people back in the rhythms of the weekend football watching. So
I feel like that's like LSU's second year in a row they've gotten the big primetime slot on Sunday night, right?
Really?
That Florida State game last year.
LSU just schedule some tough non-conference games there.
They do. They don't schedule strictly cupcakes. I appreciate that about LSU.
Which a lot of the SEC actually has, and a lot of the Big Ten. Most programs have at least one kind of tough non-conference game that they're playing. I'm not sure that Ohio State does. Most of the other teams do. I know Michigan plays Texas. And then
that's a big game.
Georgia has Clemson. We're going to talk about that in a second. Texas A&M plays Notre Dame, which you can argue whether that's a tough game or not, maybe, but that's going to be a big matchup.
Here on this podcast, it's not a big matchup. It's not a hard matchup for Texas A&M.
Could be. Spoiler alert. And then Florida plays Miami. So some pretty big non-conference games happening here in week 1, which is what makes it exciting. I'm glad it's not just kind of chalk garbage games down the board. Some people do. Tennessee pulled Chattanooga, tough test. We talked earlier about
tough.
Ohio State playing. Who was Ohio State playing? It was someone.
Somebody Akron.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Temple, Oklahoma.
Watch out for that game.
There are some not good games as well, but we're excited to get there. So how we're going to kind of do this? We're gonna lay out the games. We have a couple games that we've chosen as kind of the ones that we're gonna sit on the most, and then we are going to give some betting. We're bringing back the next guy parlay. So if you were with us last year, you know what this is about. But we're each going to give a leg to a parlay, and we're each going to give our favorite bet of the weekend. So if you are interested in betting, we're going to talk about this a little more later probably, but we have a Discord that we have just launched. This Discord is totally free. You can just jump on. We're going to put all of our bets on there. We're going to have conversations about all the football happening. So we have different channels for NFL, for college, whatever you're interested in that we talk about. It's going to be on there and available. So if you're a person like all three of us who like to have a dialogue as you watch football games, it's a really good place for that. We each have multiple group chats that we're part of that tend to become very active in the middle of football games, because we don't get to watch games together very much. So we're all in our different places and we're just kind of, what happened there? I can't believe he did that. What an idiot. He's going to ruin our parlay. Please stop him. So just stuff like that happens often. So we are excited to be there. We're going to be very active in that Discord. So if you're interested, we've been sharing it on social media. Go check out Instagram because the link is right there, and you can get on there, and would be happy to have you. Trying to go to the
So basically, we're taking all of our group text messages for football and just inviting the listeners to be a part of the chaos and the craziness and the reactions in real time.
Maybe some live bets.
Who wouldn't want anything more? Live bets, yep.
Yeah,
Tim took a live bet and he hit big. It could have been you.
Yeah, you could have rode with me. I have announced it and I have said it in group text. I think I've said it on the pod. This is going to be my biggest football season yet. I am coming for the books. I have a plan, and they are not going to like my plan. So this is going to be the only place that you can find every single bet I will be taking on is going to be on our Discord. College, NFL, and we're not going to charge you nothing. We're not one of these Discords that's going to charge you $60 a month for all my awesome picks. You can just have them for free.
Yep.
That's right.
Be a winner. And I'll just say it right here. I will say that I think we all have some pretty big shoes to fill from last football season. If you're with us, I think at one point we won 9 next guy parlays in a row. You guys remember that?
That was crazy, man.
It was awesome.
That did not happen, just for the record. But we did hit a couple. I think we have a new strategy for this year, so we'll talk about it. We got pretty hot around football season. I forgot to debut that as well. We have a couple things. The system is coming back. If you're with us last season, we'll talk about that a little bit too, and we'll make sure we drop all of those on socials and on the Discord. I'll explain that as we get a little deeper into college talk today. But boys, amazing.
Yeah, like last week we posted a TikTok and it was just like a tease about a fantasy player. And we got a couple comments about why don't you say who the player was, what a tease, and like ripping us up and down. If anything was a tease, it was Zach right there, just like throwing out. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's. Oh, and we have that as well, which we'll talk
Well, it
about
just
in a
came
little
into
bit.
my brain that I needed to share that. So
I
we'll
know
get there.
it's just funny to see that in real
When we
life
get to
of
betting,
him,
we'll talk about it.
and we'll talk about that in a
directly-
little bit.
It directly impacts my best bet of the weekend. So,
Ooh.
So I'm super pumped. Should we
let's
like
do
jump
it. Yeah,
in?
I think we should jump in. We are going to be hitting the high points of what we consider the best matchups of the weekend. So let's just jump into Michigan Clemson. Let's just do it. Michigan, not Michigan,
Georgia.
Clemson. Georgia Clemson.
Georgia.
I'm sorry,
Georgia.
Georgia Clemson. Georgia largely considered the best team in the nation, most complete team, I think. Clemson, really weird team right now to think about. Dabo Sweeney obviously has avoided the transfer portal. That's kind of the big talking point. Is Georgia has embraced it, picked up some big pieces, including a new running back from Florida, ETN, and a lot of other pieces that they've plugged in just to continue to be dominant. While Dabo Sweeney has gone the other way, he rides with his guys to the end, for better or worse. Cade Klubnik is back after a pretty mediocre season last year. And so these are kind of the tale of two programs. One seems to be trending up, one seems to be trending down. How do we feel about this game?
This is a tough game for me because I feel like Clemson is pretty solid defensively. They always are. They always have a good defensive line. Dabo is a very good recruiter. Like you said, though, he has not embraced the transfer portal. He is one of 4 teams that did not accept a single transfer. The other 3 were service academies, where you have to get a congressman to sign off for you to be able to transfer. So, pretty tough.
That's not good.
I don't know what to think of. Yeah, it's not good. Clemson lost Will Shipley, who was kind of like the heart and soul of their offense the last couple of years through the DJ Ungalele and Cade Klubnik kind of getting his feet wet. So I don't really know what to think here. I think Georgia is like, they replace 5 stars with 5 stars. I think defensively they're going to be great. I think this is a game where they're going to kind of be feeling things out. They've got a lot of new pieces on offense. Mm-hmm. And then Carson Beck, I don't think he's going to immediately click. I think by the end of the year he's going to be a Heisman guy, but I think he's going to start out a little bit slow. Yeah, I know. I don't enjoy saying any of this, but it's a game where I think Georgia wins, but I think it's close.
I agree. I think the 13.5 point line is really tricky because I really wanted to bet on this game as my best bet, and I went back and forth on it all day. And I just can't make myself do it because I think it's going to be right around there. Georgia had to replace Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey offensively, which is huge chunks of their offensive production last season, which is a pretty big question mark for me. I think they're still going to be good. I think Georgia wins this game. It's hard to tell by what margin. I think there is a reality where Georgia comes out and just kind of smacks Clemson around. I think there is another reality where Clemson keeps it super, super close until late. It's a tough game for me to predict. I think Clemson is pretty unpredictable at this point, and I think Georgia wins. I would be shocked if Clemson won. I was telling them earlier, I think if Clemson won, this may go down as one of like the bigger upsets, week 1 upsets in the last 20 years of college football. Obviously, you've got the Michigan Appalachian State, which is just that's my favorite one. But I think this, which seems crazy with Clemson being up there as one of the powerhouses in the last like 15, 20 years in college football, but the gap is growing all the time. And I think Georgia looks a little bit indestructible right now. I would be shocked if Clemson wins this game.
It would be fun. Set this season off, though. It would really, truly stick a dynamite into the middle of college football and say, let's get this party started. It would be chaos. I'm rooting for it, but I do think Georgia pulls it out in the end. But honestly, I like Clemson plus I would wait. I would try to see if you could get that number to the 14 and a half is where I would rather take it.
Yeah.
13 and a half is not great because
Pretty
I feel
scary.
like Georgia could easily win by 2 touchdowns, and then you're just like, well, I died by half a point.
Yeah, that'd be a bummer. Okay, moving on. Let's crank through a couple more of these. Tins. This is a game Tins is passionate about in the early slot as well. Penn State,
Can't wait for
West
this.
Virginia. Just for the
Yep.
record, Penn State ranked number 8 in the preseason AP poll. That's
But why?
kind of wild. Penn State, Notre Dame, and Florida State is like 7, 8, and 10. I don't know. We don't have to talk about that again. But Tins, what are your thoughts on this game? Penn State, West Virginia. You've done a lot more research than I have here. So
Yeah, I'm slowly falling in love with this West Virginia football team. The quarterback, his last name is Harrell, has been lighting it up. He had a good end of the year last year. This West Virginia team was a team that had low expectations going into the year last year. Their head coach was seemingly on the hot seat. Fired the boys up, coached them up all throughout the year, saved his job. It seems like he's going to stick around, had a good recruiting class, and now there's some expectations with this quarterback that, hey, they can make a little bit of noise, kind of be like I'm kind of comparing them to like Kentucky in the SEC, where they're not going to go and defeat or do anything crazy, but I think they're out to just ruin somebody's season. And go to a bowl game and kind of just be one of those teams. And then Penn State's just one of those teams too that I think I feel about them how Zach feels about Notre Dame, that until Penn State can prove it to me that they're not just mediocre, then I'm never going to believe in them. Especially with Drew Aller at quarterback, he is terrible.
yeah. I think this happens every year where Penn State, and I do have some biases that have been set in over a long period of time, but I think Penn State is just the one where they never deliver. In the last 10 years, they've never had a season where they're like, oh wow, Penn State's looking really good. Partly because they just go and they lose to there are a couple of big games that they have. I saw a stat about Penn State playing in games against top 10 ranked opponents, and their win total was just insanity. Like they were like 3-22 or something in the last so many years. And not that I think that West Virginia is like a top 10 opponent right now, but I just think that if people just look at the rating and they're like, oh, number 8, I think Penn State's going to win this one easily, I think you're probably not correct there. All that to say. So, Tens, I'm with you on West Virginia. That would be hilarious.
I did take it. Personally. I mean, it is, as far as the system play, I took the +8 and then sprinkled money line for West Virginia.
Okay, maybe we should go ahead and describe the system then, because I think we're going to talk about it a few times here. So the system last year, what we established, and honestly what Vegas kind of started compensating for, because this became a storyline across all of the college football last year. We started it pretty early, though. I think we were on the cutting edge of it. There was.
I think Zach created this and someone stole it.
It could be true, because this came up in multiple. Talking heads started bringing this up as the year went on, because it became more and more prevalent. But we started a system where underdogs that are playing at home against top 25 opponents kind of won at a pretty unprecedented rate last year. There was a lot of huge home upsets where you had a big ranked team come into town that has a tendency to rile the crowd up even more. You know, you got like West Virginia has Penn State coming in. Penn State's coming in with a lot of preseason expectations. West Virginia wants to shock the world. Their stadium is going to be jacked up, and it provides a boost to get them over the edge. And there was a lot of situations last year where teams that were pretty significant underdogs covered the spread, but not only did that, but won the whole game. So we started a system last year where we put about a unit on every spread of those type of underdog plays, and then about a half of a unit on the money line. Because if it hit, it turned into a pretty big payday for us. So I will say I started off with a pretty small amount of money last year, and I played this system the whole season, and we won a lot more than we lost. So we're gonna do it again this year, and this game fits the system. At West Virginia,
We should just start.
fun. Yeah, what do you say, Mason?
We should just parlay them together.
All of them. We're gonna start in the
Yes.
Discord calling out all the
Yeah.
system plays. So if you want to tail it, you can. There is at least one more on our schedule we're going to talk about today.
Radar.
Yeah, there's a couple of them this weekend. Okay, next up, let's do it. Let's just go ahead and roll into this system play. We have Florida, Miami. Miami is playing at the Florida Gators in the Swamp. This one's this was tricky for me. I've been on the record saying I think Florida's going to win 3 football games, and they play 3 basically like FCS teams, and so this is a tricky one. The line is 2.5 in Miami's favor. Miami's minus 2.5 here. They are a ranked team at number 19, playing at Florida in the Swamp. I think there's a lot of factors at play here. Florida is a team that I truly believe is not very good at football. Billy Napier is a coach who I think will get fired this season still. Graham Mertz, I think, is not very good, not a great quarterback. Here's what I do know, and here's the factors that I'm putting into play. The Swamp is a very tough place to play, especially at the beginning of the season. No matter what the narratives have been, everyone is 0-0, unless you're Florida State and you're 0-1. But everyone starts off week 1 as 0-0. And fans know this, and fans say the most delusional fans in the world are going to be like, I mean, we have a shot to make the playoffs, even if their schedule is what it is. They're going to pack out the stadium for this game. It's a rivalry game. They're going to be jacked up. They're going to create a very intense environment. And if you think the team hasn't heard the narratives that we've been spreading on this pod and that other talking heads have of this team does not have a chance of getting out of this season alive, Billy Napier is going to get fired by week 6 or whatever. They're gonna lose. The spread is, or the over under win totals is 4.5. I mean, teams like Florida see that, and that's like ultimate bulletin board material here, where Miami is coming to town at number 19. So I'm not going to break down X's and O's and player matchups and blah, blah, blah. Because at the end of the day, I think these are two teams who are both going to be making some stakes. I think the Miami's quarterback's name is Cam Wood. Tins, can you confirm?
Cameron Ward.
Cameron Ward. Sorry. He had a pretty up and down season. I think there will be a lot of rust to knock off of both teams. I expect a sloppy game with a decent bit of turnovers. I think the home field advantage and the system play is going to push Florida over the edge, and I think they take a big win here against Miami. Shock the world. That won't be a shock to the world. I mean, the line's 2.5. It's.
I thought it was going to be further than that, but also, Zach, some of your worst football memories ever was in the Swamp.
True.
So you're rooting for nightmares.
Very accurate. And so this is a system play. I will say this is, just to go ahead and get this out of the way, this is going to be my best bet of the week. Or do I want to save this?
We already just put it out. So
Okay, best bet of the week. It's actually a parlay, so it comes out to about plus 300. I'm taking Florida plus 2.5, parlayed with under 54 points. I think it's a sloppy game. Ooh. I think it's going to be a jillion degrees and just disgustingly hot. I think teams are going to run out of juice. I think it just turns into a sloppy game, and Florida is going to have just to the edge because of the home field advantage.
Well, that's good because I don't think anybody has a win total for Miami at all. Oh, wait. Go ahead, Terrence.
Okay, I have Miami's win total. That's why I'm a little quiet about all of it. I definitely agree with what Zach's saying. It does make sense. This is a perfect spot. Everyone's probably on Miami. Everyone all summer has talked about how Florida has the hardest schedule in college football history.
They do.
I mean, it's legitimately one of the hardest schedules I've ever seen. So it is all setting up. Every narrative says Florida loses this game, so that's why they probably don't. It's the home opener. It's against a rival. The Swamp is still an X factor with their fans. Like, it's early enough in the season. Zach texted earlier and said their spirits aren't broken yet. Like, they're going to be hyped about the season still.
We'll wait till week 6.
Right.
Tennessee.
I don't. I'm not one to bet against the system, so I'm not going to do that. This is one of those things. I said it earlier because yes, I'm on Miami's win total, but I'm more about Miami winning the ACC. So it's more. Honestly, I got a free pass because Florida State went and lost an ACC game against Georgia Tech. So I'm really not sweating this game too much. It'd be great. Miami comes out and dominates and looks like the world beaters that I think they could be with finally having a quarterback on the team. But I'm not going to hit the panic button if they lose essentially a trap game in Florida. Like, this isn't a game they should probably win.
I don't know who scheduled that game either for Miami. That's tough.
Yeah,
it's a tough game for both teams, actually. Tins, what is Miami win total?
9.5, or maybe it was 8.5.
Okay, Florida State.
I don't remember. I'd have to go find it. It's buried under a lot of futures. Shocking to no one. But I am on them. I am on them to win the ACC at like plus 450.
All right. That's pretty good odds. If Clemson loses this first game as well, then they could just all lose the first game of the season. Like Duke could be in first place in ACC. Okay, so moving on, we've got 2 games left. That'd be very funny. Let's do this one next. We have Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Notre Dame is traveling to A&M in what will be a very hostile home environment at Kyle Field. Obviously, we have a new head coach at A&M that we debuted in Mike Elko. We talked about him earlier in our SEC preview, but there is a significant amount of turnover at A&M's roster to the tune of 30-something transfers that came in. The question marks in this game that we're going to be watching for A&M's quarterback situation. Is Wegman going to be healthy and going to play a solid game? Notre Dame, they have this is at least the I'm going to get that wrong. They have a coach who's been there. Tens, do you know how long he's been there at Notre Dame now? What season it is?
I think this is season. It's not as many as you think. I think it's just his second year.
Okay.
He was on staff as the defensive coordinator with Chip Kelly.
Okay.
Because this is just Kelly's second year at LSU, right? Or is it his third year?
It's his.
I think we're entering year 3. That sounds right.
Wow, this is good here.
This is good podcasting right here.
This is great podcasting. So this is
entering year 3.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman. Regardless, he's not a first-year head coach anymore. This is his team. I think it's at least his 4th year, maybe. And we have a couple different. I mean, that's a very different teams coming to the table here. I have been very vocal about my Notre Dame dislike, especially I have a bet on my futures of them to miss the playoffs. So, which actually is plus money with a 12-team playoff. They started off their season ranked number 7. A&M is down there at like number 20. I think either of them could be really good to make the playoffs this year if the schedule goes a certain way. Going to be a really fun matchup, I think. I think it could be pretty tight. I've got A&M winning, though. I think, again, the home environment is going to be too much to overcome. But, Tins, how you feel about this game?
Yeah, I thought this game was on a neutral site up until today. Somebody asked me where they were playing, and I was like, I don't know. I think it's like Vegas or something. Let me check. And then I saw it's at Kyle Field. Um, so that on top of the fact that
Yep.
it's interesting. So you've got A&M's new head coach is playing against his former quarterback at Duke, because that is Riley Leonard is the quarterback for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's interesting. I find that funny. It's like a fun fact. But yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. I like Texas A&M. Not a believer in Notre Dame whatsoever.
The game that
It
is in
says
Vegas is LSU USC.
Marcus Freeman, head coach from 2021 to present. I think 2021 he was like defensive coach. Did he take over like halfway through or part through? Because it says 2021 defensive coordinator and then 2021 present head coach.
So he was hired. So when Chip Kelly left Notre Dame and didn't coach the bowl game, so that's when Marcus took over.
There you go. Okay. Why was that so hard to find for all of us? We will never know.
Well, I didn't look. I was just trying to go off the dome. Didn't work.
Riley Leonard,
long-term COVID
plus
brain.
2,200 to win Heisman. Fun fact.
Those odds couldn't be long enough for me.
Actually, we will see in these just top like 5 games that we're highlighting. We're going to see, I think, at least 6 of the top like 12 highest odds to win Heisman. We're going to see Carson Beck at Georgia. We're going to see Cam Ward at Miami. Riley Leonard, Connor Wegman. Those are all guys in the top like 12 names. So pretty exciting. All playing in pretty big games at this week 1. So we will see what happens. Not playing in a big game, Dylan Gabriel playing Idaho, if you're curious. Oregon.
Time to run up them stats, though. Time to get them Heisman stats going. Remember when I whispered about it, and it was plus 1,000, and now it's like plus 500 on FanDuel? Interesting.
Who is it?
Dylan Gabriel. Remember, it was my
DraftKings right now.
Yeah, I whispered it, but it was just my secret future when I gave the Miami future. That whole episode could be fire. It might be one I'd do a callback on here in about 4 months. Looking back, look at how much money I made, everyone.
That'd be awesome.
That's why you got to get on the Discord, baby.
True facts. Last game that we're going to break down here is LSU USC. This is happening on Sunday night. A pretty fun matchup of 2 very, very teams who were on a similar path last year. Both had a Heisman contender at quarterback. That was kind of put the team on your back mentality, and Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, both who are now in the
Picks
NFL.
1 and 2 in the NFL.
Yeah, and they're both looking like the most promising of the rookie quarterbacks with starting positions in the NFL now. So they obviously lost both of those guys and are kind of starting over at quarterback. But similar styles, both famously, both their defenses were also horrible last year. And so they're coming together to play. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game on Sunday night. Tins, how do you feel about this matchup?
I think I know what to expect out of USC because I feel like Lincoln Riley does the same thing every year. He's going to load up on skill guys. Mm-hmm. He's got a quarterback always waiting. It feels like he's just ever since you go back to like Baker, and Lincoln Riley has just produced a quarterback out of thin air. I think
he threw like 6 touchdowns in the bowl game, didn't he?
Yeah, I remember it was my best bet that weekend where I was like all over just fading USC. I was like, this kid, there's no chance. Everyone's gone. USC's going to get wrecked. I don't even remember who they played. But yeah, Moss made me eat those words with 6 touchdowns. I was like, I'm not even going to fight for this. This is over. He's dead. So yeah, but LSU is tricky to me because I don't know what to expect out of their quarterback position. I feel like they kind of lucked into Jaden Daniels, where he was a transfer that not a lot of teams were after because he kind of had like a messy breakup with Arizona State. and then he turned out to be a really good player for them. So I don't know. LSU's one of those weird teams when you were doing your SEC breakdowns, and I was trying to kind of figure out where I stood with them, where they've lost a lot in this past draft. I'm not a big Chip Kelly guy. I don't believe in like his recruiting classes so far at LSU haven't blown me away. And USC I'm kind of coming around on, where I think if they could just be above mediocre at defense, they could be a very good team because their skill guys on offense are great.
Yeah, I think the argument in the other direction is LSU just hired, we talked about it in the breakdown, a defensive coordinator. It seems like they were taking an aggressive path towards getting better on defense. And Blake Baker, who came from Missouri, they made him the highest paid coordinator in the country. It really felt like we have to do something different. We can't just rely on our offense just to outscore opponents. We need to actually get better at defense. It looks like they're pursuing that. Whether that'll happen in year one kind of this overhaul, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Lincoln Riley, I think they've also taken some steps to get better on defense. I'm just not sure that that's going to get there. I don't know. You do hear a lot of different things about Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, that new quarterback there that's jumping in. I think he's kind of a high ceiling, low floor kind of guy, where he could.
Was he a transfer?
Could be really good.
Or
that's a great question.
Like a recruit? I don't know. Like I just don't know. And I'm not as into recruiting, and there's so much change in college football, even before the transfer portal, where I've never been a guy who keeps up that hard with recruiting. But this just isn't like, I don't know. Normally LSU quarterbacks have a lot of hype coming into the season, and there's like they've turned into wide receiver U. If you think about it, all of the NFL wide receivers right now, there's so many of them that come from LSU, and I couldn't tell you who's that next guy. Like I could tell you the last 3 to 4 years, like, yeah, this guy is going to be the next LSU receiver, and then this guy, and so on and so forth. I don't know who that guy is now.
Nussmeier is a redshirt junior in his 4th year at LSU now. So he's been there the whole time.
So he's been around.
Laying in wait.
He was there with...
I've heard that the staff really likes him. So they're pretty high on him. He's a guy who could come out and have a really good season. I don't know. He's kind of an unknown, I think, because he hasn't seen the field so little.
Yeah. Okay.
With the quarterback talent. Okay.
I think this is going to be a fun game because they're two big-time programs. They're going to have athletes. It's going to be a fun game. I think it'll just come down to the quarterback play is who's going to end up winning the game. But I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. Should be a nice cherry on top.
Yep.
Yeah, neutral site. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay. Well, those are what we consider our 5 biggest games of the weekend. Let's go ahead and go through our best bets, and we'll give our next guy up parlay as well, and then we will let Mason take us to Fantasyland. Love saying that. It's funny. Okay, so I already gave my best bet. It's on Florida. So Florida plus 2.5 and the under 54. Comes out to about plus 300. Nice little parlay.
Yeah, nice little same game parlay there for Zach.
Tinsley, you want to do yours? Because I got a little spiel with mine. Okay, sweet.
Okay, beautiful. I'm going back to one of the first games we previewed, and I'm going to be taking West Virginia plus 8. It's system play. I'm not going to go against the system. Zach built a beautiful system, and I do like this West Virginia team.
Built it.
I'm a big believer that Penn State is not as good as they ever are ranked, and so let's put it to the test week 1. So West Virginia plus 8 for me.
Love it.
Love it. Okay, so there is system plays. There's trends. I wanted to dive into some week 1 trends. I know, like, history, you want to look at the past, but also it's just something that we want to keep in mind, but it's not, like, completely accurate. But I found some things for this week that have been, like, a trending betting trend. So, for week 1, huge favorites, 37.5 points or more, have been automatic in opening weeks of college football since 2013, going 14-0 straight up and against the spread. That would be for 2 games. Oklahoma minus 42 against Temple, and Ohio State minus 48.5 versus Akron. Some other things here. It kind of pushes you towards the low totaled games in week one, especially with bigger favorites in games with totals of 48 or less and a favorite of 4 more points. Did any of that make sense? Under the total 34 and 12, that's 73%. So some of those would be FAU versus Michigan State, UConn versus Maryland, Nevada versus Troy. Non-conference games, opponents involving home underdogs, they've been explosive, particularly when not expected or when it's expected to be. In fact, since 2013, when totals on these games involving home dogs are 64 or less, the results have been 22 overs and 7 unders. So it was like a system play. The over was more. Did that make sense? Underdogs at home.
Yeah.
So we were going back. There's several others, but we were going back to some of the plays, and I'm going to go with a big favorite, and that is going to be Oklahoma minus 42. I think it makes Zach nervous. It's on Friday, by the way, everybody, not Saturday. Friday night.
So today.
Any game that gets up that high, you have to start putting into consideration like how quickly you're pulling starters.
I get it.
At what point in the game do you start putting your second and third string in to avoid injuries? I think that they will be doing that at some point, and the question is
14-0, Zach, against the spread.
I hear you.
Okay, just telling you.
That's why it makes me nervous.
It's a high total. I get it.
But I trust you. I ride.
We trust you. We got to ride. Best bet, because it's also going to lead us right into
the next guy parlay.
Right. The next guy
parlay. That's right.
Okay. We are also 0-0 on the season, so it's a fresh start for the next guy parlay. I'll kick us off here. I think you're going to find that we all have chosen some what we consider a little bit of safer plays for the hope that we can parlay things together, still get some pretty good juice on it, and win everyone some money. So my parlay is going to be Texas A&M money line against Notre Dame. It's at like plus 160 something.
Yep.
Nope, minus 160. Sorry.
There you go.
We're getting our pluses and minuses mixed up. It's fine.
We're out of practice.
It's week one for us.
Week one.
All right. I moved this line up just a little bit. We talked about it earlier. Georgia and Clemson. I do feel like this is two very good defenses. I think Georgia's going to be feeling some stuff out, but I feel like their defense is going to do enough to keep the point total down. So I moved it up to under 50.5. I feel like this game has 17-10 energy written all over it, but let's get it up to 50.5 just in case we get a little bit more points than I expect. Original number was 48.5, so 2-point little cushion.
And we already ran the odds on this, correct?
Yeah, I've got them.
All right, so when you plug it all in.
Oh, Mason's leg is Oklahoma minus 42. His best bet is also his next guy up parlay.
Yep.
So he's looking to not have 2 or 0 and 2 next to his name in the Discord. So ride with us with this parlay is going to be plus 437. Nice little way to start out week one. Quadruple your money.
Heck yeah.
On this bet, get a nice bankroll rolling for the beginning of the season.
Love it. Okay, is it time?
It's time. Mason's Fantasy Land.
It's time to fly this plane right to the fantasy land.
Okay, so I teased it at the very beginning. I'm going to talk about a couple players. Not one, but 2 players, and then we'll just talk. I didn't have anybody that I really wanted to hate on. this week. So we'll just talk about some news. Tinsley will chat it up with me on some injuries. A lot of players starting out for the first 4 weeks with the PUP list. And then we can talk about some cuts. I don't know if Tinsley cares about that much. There are some no names, but if you're in sleeper, it is to pay attention because all of a sudden you got somebody that you were hoping would be a top, like a young guy that maybe would make a team, and then all of a sudden they have a 0 by their name, and you're like, oh, they got cut. So real quick, the 2 players, believe it or not, and I have a reason for this, and I have some stats, so don't you worry. They're actually both for the Washington Commanders. One is more like a target in ESPN, and then the other one's more like target in sleeper deep leagues. Like, hey, this is just somebody that don't go picking them up if you're in a 10-person league. The first one is an obvious Terry McLaurin. He's been a safe fantasy bet, topping 1,000 yards in each of the last 4 seasons. They just got rid of Jahan Dotson, traded him for some reason to the Eagles. And so we were looking at some opening targets. Well, let's see. Who did they add and kind of place for Jahan Dotson? And that would be Noah Brown. If you know who that player is, I actually had him on my sleeper last year just as a late flyer and picked him up. And he actually performed pretty well. I have the some of the stats here. Was not really expected with like a full wide receiver group. You had Tank Dell there. You had Nico Collins. But with Stephon Diggs coming in, I think they were basically like, well, it's time to let him go. But give me one second. Did you have it? We were nodding your head. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, why would you want to keep a cheap 4th wide receiver option? I mean, injuries never happen. We turn right before the season starts. We turn injuries off, don't we, Texans? Sure, nothing bad will happen. No injuries, no pulled hamstrings.
I was so waiting for his
nothing. What a dumb decision to cut Noah Brown after he had 500 plus yards and a couple touchdowns for you last year when Tank Dell got hurt.
Noah Brown actually was a wide receiver 3, and he had 153 yards, a wide receiver 6, and a wide receiver 9. He was a little inconsistent. He had somewhere he was like wide receiver 55, wide receiver 61. He had an injury in there, but he had 3 games where he literally, one of them he had 153 yards, 172, and 82 yards. Now, he only had 2 touchdowns, and Terry McLaurin only had like 3 or 4 touchdowns. I had the list, but I wanted to get to something more important, which is we talked about Jane Daniels on the show before. Some people are like a little muh about him. Last year, who had the second most passing touchdowns in college football last year? Jane Daniels with 40, Bo Nix with 45. Who had the 5th most passing yards of all the college quarterbacks? Jane Daniels. Who had the most passing yards per attempt last year? Most out of anybody. So the long ball was definitely in play. Jaden Daniels. Who is tied for 5th for most 300-yard games last season? Jaden Daniels. So I'm really expecting, and I know people are like, wow, it's college football, chill out a little bit. But if I have some type of hope for this Commanders team and for these 2 wide receivers, Noah Brown was able to show it in spurts and now is with the Commanders. And then Terry McLaurin, which has been a consistent 1,000-yard receiver the past 4 seasons. We just need to get those touchdowns up. And Jaden Daniels was able to show that in college. I feel pretty confident about it. So how do we feel?
Yeah, I mean, Terry McLaurin wasn't a top 100 player according to the NFL list, but 1,000 yards. No, I like this. I like Noah Brown as far as going and getting him now off of waivers, kind of a stash guy. I think he can be solid depth if you've got a really deep team or like you start a lot of receivers or flexes. Like he's worth taking a flyer on. This offense is going to want to pass the ball deep with what is his name? Cliff Kingsbury. And Jane Daniels does like to throw the ball down the field. Now, granted, he doesn't have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. to throw to like he did in college, but scary Terry McLaurin is a top tier guy, and I feel like Noah Brown is going to fill in and kind of probably immediately take over like the wide receiver 2 spot. Because I don't think they've been super impressed with like Luke McCaffrey and some of the other younger guys on the team.
For sure. Okay, so we're going to go over some people that made the PUP list. For anybody that doesn't know, this automatically rules you out for the first 4 games. Some of these are injuries out for the whole year if you missed them. Elijah Mitchell out for the whole year on a very productive 49ers team. That gives Jordan Mason the RB2. So once again, late round targets for streamers if you're interested in that. Jonathan Brooks, rookie for the Carolina Panthers, will start on the PUP list. Basically out for the first 4 weeks. Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders will probably be some late flyers. So kind of keep that in mind.
I love Brooks. I feel so everything is saying that this was a little bit precautionary. He would have probably been ready to roll by week 2, but this way they can ease him into it. Their projected goal is by week 6, he's going to be full go, the number 1 back. I love this kid. I think he's going to be awesome. I've tried to get him in every dynasty league. I drafted him this year in our redraft and stuck him on my IR spot and hoping he can come in and play for me immediately. Okay. I'm also very high on the Panthers just in general.
Write all this down. Okay, a couple out of the year, like I was out for the whole season. I may just miss some of this, but Keandre Miller on IR for the Saints.
Yeah, they're kind of just done with him.
Hamstring injury. Yeah.
Yeah, their coaches made a lot of comments about his health and how he can never stay on the field.
I was also a little worried. If you listen to last episode, I was a little worried about Josh Jacobs because A.J. Dillon, he is out for the year, which kind of gives the green light for Marshawn Lloyd, rookie running back.
But Marshawn Lloyd stinks.
Okay, not a fan. Also, the Chiefs had a bunch of moves. They had cut quite a bit of people. They cut, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher some of these. Isaiah Spiller, Dearintis Pierce, and Lewis Reese Zammit, which was one of the he was like a rugby player. So Carson Steele took the preseason by storm. So a possible gadget backup running back, or is it just he's not going to play very often?
No, they have hyped up how much Pacheco is going to be the 3-down back. He's worked with the receiver coach all offseason, working on running routes and catching. So, I mean, he'll come in and spell Pacheco and let him get some rest. But Pacheco is also one of those guys who's just like, no, I want the ball. I want to run into people's faces.
Run in their face. And then last one here, unless you had any you wanted to throw out, Dante Foreman, a Titan, used to be, got cut, surprisingly. Pierre Strong is now looking like the backup. You also have Ford there. We don't know about Nick Chubb. He's starting out on the PUP list as well. So you got him out for 4. So you have Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong, Nick Chubb is on this list, and then Nyheim Hines. Forgot about that guy. But Dante Foreman, cut.
Yeah, I mean, the Pierre Strong's second or third year player. It makes sense. Go with the youth at running back. That's what the NFL does. But yeah, other than that, there weren't a ton. You pretty much nailed all of the kind of bigger, maybe like a little bit of fantasy implications as far as the cut day went. Nothing real crazy happened. I don't think there was a couple trades, but still, I mean, Jahan Dotson was probably the biggest one of that.
Fantasy wise, yeah.
But yeah, no, the PUP list, there were some big names we talked about. Nick Chubb is on there, but they're really expecting him to really not make it back until week 7 or 8 from his ACL injury. TJ yeah, TJ Hawkinson is more. He's looking like 10 to 12, week 10 or 12, which you have to kind of wonder. Yeah, you kind of have to wonder at that point if the Vikings have been eliminated, do they bring back TJ Hawkinson and put him out there for a lost season, considering how much he's paid and how valuable he is to their team if they're looking at more of like a, hey, let's pack it up and go to next year.
Yeah. Guess we'll find out. Super Bowl winning Vikings there, right, Zach?
Correct. I'm all in on it.
Oh.
Sorry.
and that concludes Mason's Fantasyland.
Oh, I was going to talk about Odell Beckham being on the
go
PvP
for it.
list.
Oh, does anybody care? Oh, who said that?
Dang.
I mean, I care. The Dolphins have a lot of guys on the PvP list going to miss the first 4 games. It's kind of crazy. You know, they feel like a team you want to play in those first 4 games. Bradley Chubb's going to be out. Jordan Phillips.
Let me guess. The Jags play the Dolphins.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look.
Weird.
It's weird. I'd have to look. I would definitely have to look. Tyreek Hill has a wrist injury. Hasn't been catching balls at practice. All interesting things.
Okay, you heard it here first. All interesting. And now that concludes Mason's Fantasyland. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's going to wrap up our episode today. We've covered our first official football episode of the season.
Hey.
So we are very excited. We will be back on Monday for the drum roll, please. Our first official episode of season 2. So we're launching season 2. We're doing some things differently. They've kind of started off with this episode, but we're going to be covering things just a little bit different. We're gonna go all in on football season, and so if you are used to our Mess Around Monday weekend preview format, we're just going to look a little differently. We are going to kind of integrate both types of episodes into each one, but we're going to be doing full previews on our end of week episodes, and we're in full reviews on our Monday episode talking about what just happened over the weekend. So I think it's going to be really fun to follow over the course of the football season. So that's going to be on our Monday episode. We will talk about all these games and how everything shook out on your Labor Day. Coming up, the Discord is also going to be live. We're just mentioning that one more time. Join it on our Instagram. There's links there. Get with us there. If you need it, if you can send us a text or whatever, get in touch with us. We will make sure you get on the Discord. We are also on socials. Check out our Instagram. Our TikTok has been popping off. We've been putting a lot of content on there. We've been diligent about getting we're going to be putting a lot of betting stuff on there as well. So be with us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all of the above. We are all in on this football season. So follow us all along the way. Subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, do all the things. We appreciate all of you, and we're excited to jump into a new football season with you. So with that, we hope you have a great first weekend of football, and we will see you back here on Monday.